Welcome back to Autism for Badass Moms. I'm Rashidah, your host, and I don't know why I'm feeling in such like a giggly laugh, probably because I got Emily over here, giggly laughy mood. But we have a beautiful guest who came in all the way from LA, California. Love it, love her. Oh, and I thought it was her birthday, and it was our man's birthday. So happy, what's his name?
Ismail.
Ismail, happy birthday, okay? He's here in the studio. So let's get right into it. Justin, he's 15, going to be 16 in November.
Correct.
Now, your journey, a difficult one, and a journey that there's a lot of moms out there have to make a hard decision.
Correct.
Yeah. So take us back to diagnosis and what was going on.
So Justin was diagnosed at the age of 2. I actually started seeing signs of autistic traits around the age of 1. So right after he turned 1, I started noticing signs like he was, for example, just less expressive. He wasn't showing so much expression. He wasn't smiling. He was kind of hard to console. And I brought it up to many doctors regarding some of the issues that I was seeing. I was seeing that, he wasn't really mumbling anymore. He was just making sounds. And so that's when I started noticing that there was something different with Justin. I just didn't quite know what it was. Okay. I had never heard about autism, and I didn't know anything about it.
What were the doctors saying?
I got dismissed by a lot of doctors, and I think there was different reasons to that. One of the reasons would probably be my age. I had Justin when I was 17 years old.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of times it was some of the answers would be, well, Justin is your first child. You don't really know what it is to have a child. You don't know the milestones. I actually had a pediatrician who was actually my previous pediatrician when I was a child. Take a look at Justin. I had her be the pediatrician for him, and I was very disappointed because her answer to me was that if I put a label on Justin, it never goes away. And she made it seem like a label would be a curse to him.
Oh, wow.
And so unfortunately, we had to overcome some of those obstacles, but we were very blessed that at least I started seeing the signs beforehand. I started doing my own investigation, and I started figuring out what type of things I could do to try to see a group of people, developmental people, to try to diagnose Justin.
Now that's huge because, like you said, you were, first-time mom, 17. You had these professionals with all these letters behind their name. You could have at any point said, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't need to do anything. Maybe I'm overreacting. But you still continue to push through and research because you knew that something was just off.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he got diagnosed at the age of 2, and our journey started from there. When he got his diagnosis, the case manager that gave us that diagnosis, the results of the assessment, came to me, and back then, that was probably in 2011. She gave me a packet that said how to survive the first 100 days of autism. And I never forget that. That was really relevant in my life because what was I going to do with just surviving the first 100 days? I needed to figure out how to survive the rest of our life.
And the word survive, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Exactly. It was just harsh.
Yeah.
There was no empathy behind it. And I looked at her, I looked at the packet, and I actually threw it in the trash can in front of her, and I said, I'll figure it out. At no moment was I given any type of information about the regional center out in California. I was never given information about early intervention. None of that. So I had to obviously do a lot of my own research, and it went on from there.
Yeah. So, the emotions that you were feeling, were you frustrated with just...
I was very frustrated. I felt like they had a bias on me. I was a Latina, 17, 18 years old, trying to figure things out. And that's when I realized that, in a sense, I was being oppressed. I wasn't treated fairly like any other parent who would have had their child at what would be considered, the normal stage of life, 25 and above. I think they saw me and they saw a girl from the hood. And I think that's just what they saw. They didn't see me as a mother who was trying to make the best decisions for Justin, who was, working a full-time job,
Right.
who was trying to figure out what her dreams were. None of that. I was just another statistics to them.
And that's unfortunate because there's a lot of moms out there today that are having this same experience.
Exactly.
So when did that diagnosis come?
It actually came 2 weeks after he turned 2 years old. So it was perfect. It came right in time. I unfortunately didn't give myself time to grieve. I got the diagnosis and I just absorbed it. And then I just continued with life. So I was just kind of hyper-focused, trying to figure out what were the next steps, contacting the regional center, trying to find early intervention for him, trying to find the right early intervention program for him, trying to kind of absorb also the information that Justin being 2 years old, well, his mental capacity was 0 to 4 months. So there was just a lot of things I had to navigate. And also, as being a single mom, it was very tough.
Okay. So, you're on go, right? Let's do this. And when did the challenges, because there was challenging behaviors that then ensued. When did that come?
So Justin always had behaviors. Justin is profoundly autistic. He's nonverbal. And, because of him not having the ability to be able to vocalize and speak, a lot of his needs and wants, when they were not met, he would become overwhelmed and he would become aggressive. But his aggression prior it was mild. It was maybe just a little slap on your shoulder, him kind of eloping from you because he's frustrated and overwhelmed. Nothing that was not manageable.
Okay.
But at the age of 8, everything changed for us.
Well, talk to us about what happened when he turned 8.
Some people say, professionals, they don't really believe it, but I can just tell you my perspective. It was like night and day. My son fell asleep, woke up the next morning, went to school, came back, and he was like another child.
Wow.
He came back home that day, and my mom was the one who was the one that would receive him from the bus. And I was coming back from work. And so he actually came home, and she was very concerned. She called me. She said, he looks very flushed. He looks very overwhelmed. He's hitting himself, which was something that Justin didn't have before. He didn't really show a lot of self-injurious behaviors. He was biting himself. He was hitting his head across the walls. He was doing property destruction. So when I got home and I saw all of that, I'm trying to hold him, control him, trying to figure out, what's going on, putting him in the shower, seeing if it's just that he feels hot, and looking at his medications, saying wait, was something done wrong? Did I, not give him the right dose of medication? Or is this, I don't know. I was just trying to make sure I was crossing my T's and dotting my I's. But Justin's aggression wouldn't go down. And it was so unfortunate, that we had to experience, I had to experience having to call 911. When you have to make those decisions to call 911 because you need help to just keep your child and yourself safe, that's hard. Because what they hear on the phone is, it's an 8-year-old that's having a tantrum, but that wasn't what's happening. It's an 8-year-old who's actually having a moment where it's a crucial and it's a crisis and it's a meltdown and it's bad. So that was very hard for us.
And I think, one of the interesting things to bring up is that it wasn't like just 10 minutes, right, of the meltdown, but it could go as long as like an hour.
It was a little bit over an hour.
Yeah.
And I tried to manage it at home. But once I had to call 911, I asked for an ambulance to come out. Once they came out, he had kind of settled down a little bit, but he was still engaging in those self-injurious behaviors. So what was done was that, they took us in an ambulance. They took us to the nearest children's hospital. We went to the emergency room, and, well, within maybe 5 hours, they told us that the way that they were going to solve this is by giving him a Benadryl.
I believe it.
And
I believe it.
Yeah, they gave him a Benadryl and they sent us off. And I said, how do we not know it's something medical? And they said, well, it's because he has autism. Like, this is his autism. And that's when I started figuring out that a lot of Justin's issues were always going to be reflected on his autism. He wasn't going to be treated as Justin. He was going to be treated as an autistic child.
Right.
And
this is just what it is.
That's just what it is. And I refuse to accept that.
Now, over time, was there times where he was able to not have meltdown? Like, could you go a day without a meltdown and then it just show up, a week later? Or was this constant?
After that day, no.
Wow.
After that day, it was meltdown after meltdown. When we came out of that ER, we were back in 8 hours. I physically took him myself, and I said, there is no way you're letting us out. There is something wrong with Justin. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's medical. I don't know if it's psychiatric, but something needs to be done.
Did they keep him this time?
Yes and no. So what ended up happening was that at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, they do not have a psychiatric inpatient program.
Okay.
So we were just in a basic regular ER, just like anybody else. And they had us in this room that they could see through it, basically. They can see us, but there was no supports in there. So it was just me, him. They took all the beds out. They took everything out of the room, and they put a big blue mat on the floor. And that's where we had to basically stay, sleep, and eat for the next 2 days, while they would just watch me get beat up for hours and hours at a time. My body was covered in bruises. I had tons of scratch marks. I was devastated.
I was going to say, how did you manage mentally? Just, because you go into the hospital for help. Like, this is, nobody wants to just be at the hospital.
Exactly.
And you're kind of like told, okay, yeah, you want to stay? Well, we got to find a bed.
Exactly.
So, but till then, you are going to manage these behaviors on your own, in a sense.
Yeah, I didn't. I think you get in this adrenaline mode, and you just go, and you stop thinking about yourself, and your main focus is your child at that point. So once they got us the room upstairs, they said, I just want to let you know that the floor you're going to go to isn't for Justin. So they sent us to like a floor where there's more like cancer patients or patients that need to be seen by like a neurologist, but nothing that was like Justin. So the room wasn't equipped for him. The room was kind of small. But I took it because I said, somebody needs to see Justin. We stayed for 2 weeks there, and all they would do was just inject medication. So he went from Zyprexa to Depakote to Clonidine to just about everything you can possibly imagine. And I would just see him just deteriorate. My son was deteriorating in life. Like, he was living still, but he was deteriorating, and nobody would hear me. And I guess my fight was more having him stay at the hospital because I knew that Justin wasn't safe at home.
Yeah.
So they discharged us that time, again, at 2 weeks. We were not okay. Justin was not okay. I did not feel safe, and I let them know that.
But they still said, you're right here. Like,
yes, I was asking if we could get transferred to the UCLA Children's inpatient, and they said that they had no beds. Every single time, every day. They don't have beds. We call. They don't have beds. And I said, okay. So then I said, well, let me just try to toughen this out when he came back. And I tried to toughen it out. He went back to school, and school had to call 911. Justin was very aggressive. He was banging his head on the floor to the point that he had a big ball. Like it looked like something was going to burst. Mm-hmm. When the teacher called, she knew him for many years, so she knew that this was different for him. She was very concerned, so she called 911, but she asked, please don't send the cops. Please send the ambulance. Yeah. But they didn't. They sent the police, and then it was just like this whole drama over that. I was very fortunate to be actually working close to the school. And so I just took off from work, ran to his school, got there. The ambulance was already there. He was getting ready to be taken. Mm-hmm. I went with him on the ambulance. And where did they take us? The nearest hospital, which is Children's Hospital. And I was like, I can't, I was trying to bribe them to take me to UCLA. They're like, we can't.
No,
we
have to
go within radius.
Yes, yeah.
So that was a lot. So we go back there, and I said, you know what? They're not going to play this game with me anymore. It's not going to be a 2 day. It's not going to be a 2 week. It's going to be till we figure out what the heck is going on with Justin. We go back, and this time we actually get seen by like a psychiatrist, by a social worker. It's a teaching hospital, so every week you get a different doctor, which could be great or can't or not. You know, it was overwhelming. So again, we went to the emergency. They admitted us upstairs. They took a look at him. And it was just the same thing, just injecting him. And then they started kind of looking into me, like, was there any abuse? Was there any trauma that I was causing him that was making him have these behaviors?
How did they outright just say, we're going to, was it like the questions they were asking you? Like, how did you...
They questioned me a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of times it wasn't about how can we figure something out for Justin as a team. It was more them over talking me. They didn't want me to be part of the team. They just wanted me to listen and do. So that's the first time they ever mentioned that Justin, might benefit from going into a group home or a crisis home. I'll be honest, there's no way I was okay with that. The options they were giving me were kind of insane. So one of the options was for him to go to residential school. Well, there's none in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And there's probably a few short terms in California, but nothing that's like a long-term stay. So that would mean that Justin would have to go kilometers away. So the one that they were talking about was in Kansas City.
Ooh.
Yes, Wichita. And I was like, so you want me to send my 8-year-old son to Kansas City and just be okay with that? And they said, yeah, because that might be what will help Justin. And I said, no. I said, we don't live in a third world country. We have to figure this out together. There has to be more than just this, than just throwing him over somewhere else to figure it out.
Right.
I didn't want to be ping-ponged. He doesn't deserve. He's human. You have to have empathy. I think when you're in the role of a doctor or as a psychiatrist or as anything in the mental health profession and anything where you're caring for others, you have to have a heart. You have to have empathy.
I always think about, like, would you, if you have a child, would you do that? Just, because I never been to Kansas, right? Like, so I'm going to send my child somewhere where I've never been.
Exactly. And so I said the same thing. I said, would you send your child? No, I didn't get an answer. I just got blank looks, weekly meetings, every day telling me how Justin needs to be discharged, that this room he's occupying could be for another patient who actually has health-related issues. And I'm like, mental health is a health-related issue.
What kept you strong? Because, there's just so many layers here of just definitely not getting help from the individuals that you're coming to for help and, making you feel like you're doing the wrong thing. And, like, what kept you just saying, no, you guys are going to we're going to figure this out, instead of just like, okay, I guess I'll just take him home and that's that.
I've seen so many other parents be bullied. I've seen so many other parents with language barriers feel that their voice doesn't matter.
Got it.
I think that I'm a person that the word no motivates me more. So if you tell me that this can't be done, but I know that it's what's going to be in Justin's best interest, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And I've been like that since the day I had Justin. Justin changed my life. You know, I was a very young mother and I didn't know anything about responsibilities. I didn't know about caring for another human being. But he changed my life. He made me into a better person. He made me into the empathetic person that I am now. You know, I see people and I don't just see a person. I see more. I see that they have a background, they have a past, or they were a child. They were so many things.
Yeah.
So that's what kept me strong. The fact that I knew that for the rest of my life, I will have to be Justin's voice. And if I fold today, I'm showing them that I'm not backing up my statements. I'm not backing up what I truly believe in. And at that moment, like I said, I was running on adrenaline. I said, I have to stand strong because I already know what they're seeing. And I have to prove them wrong too.
Let me ask you a question. What about, did you have supports? Like, did you have like friends? What were they telling you? Family? What were people saying?
You know, I don't have many friends. But I had a couple of friends that knew what was going on. And, you know, I'm the type of person that when I'm really going through things, I kind of back off. Because I'm a doer and I'm the helper. I'm never really the one to go and ask someone else for help. And I think that's a flaw of mine, but I'm trying to work on that. So I would let them know what's going on. And then, you know, I had a particular friend that would call me and constantly ask, text. And I think she knew that I might not answer that text right away. I will eventually. But when I do answer it, that means I've kind of figured something out. Sometimes I need to like isolate myself a little bit so I can process and know what my next step is going to be.
Right.
I had my mom, but my mom couldn't really do much at that moment. My mom has always helped me with Justin. You know, she loves him. That boy is the love of her life. And I saw how that was also deteriorating her to see him in the position that he was. The future was scary.
Yeah.
She would come and visit him there at the hospital, but I was afraid she was going to get hurt. So sometimes I had to kind of tell her, you know, Mom, it's okay that you don't come today. You don't have to come drop off the food. That's fine. And it was hard for her to understand it. I have a younger brother. At that point, he was way younger. He was probably just in like middle school, and we were going through these things. And he couldn't do much either, you know, but just see what was going on. And that's about it. You know, I didn't have a boyfriend at that point in my life. So when Justin started having these increased behaviors, it was kind of a me, myself, and I. But that was okay because I was able to figure out where I was going to grab that strength from. But then it takes a toll on you at some point.
Because, I mean, you're fighting. When did it, you know, get to a point where it was just like, I mean, again, I don't know if you got to a point where you felt like, I'm tired.
Yeah, a few months ago. I took a really
That's a long time.
Yes. Imagine, I was just like this sponge absorbing every hit that was coming from different directions. Yeah. I always say, you know, could it get any worse? No, do not say that, people, because things happen, let me tell you. And yeah, just, you know, a couple of months ago, I would say like I would say like last year. Last year was the first time that I really felt what it was to like endure yourself into like deep depression. I started feeling depressed. I was grieving. I was stressed. I said, I don't think I could do this anymore. I don't think I continue fighting. Justin deserves better. I might not be what's right for him. But I think that right now, at this moment, I'm doing better. But last year in July, when we received the eviction notice from his group home, that hit. So going back to how we got to the group home, because I really want to get to that. Went to CHLA, discharges in December. We're there for 3 months. Then we go to UCLA inpatient, keeps us there for 3 months. And then we get discharged. They weren't able to help us. And then we end up at Children's Hospital again.
It's like a roll. Like, it's just.
It was like a year and a half of this. Basically, within that year and a half, he only made it out for 1 month. And the last admission to the hospital at CHLA, they said, we can't continue this. You know, he has to do something different. We have to try something different. He needs to go to a crisis home or a residential setting. So that's when the regional center got involved, and they found actually a group home that was very close to where I live.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So at that moment, all I did was, ask God to please help me make this decision. I think there was a couple of staff at CHLA. I wouldn't say that they were like the doctors or the psychiatrists or the social workers that were as empathetic as the staff that were working with him day by day.
Yeah.
And some of them were worried. And at one point, they actually signed me up to have a child life specialist come into our room. Usually, child life specialists in a hospital come and work with families who have like children that are either very terminal or are going through some type of really hard health crisis, and there's a possibility they won't make it. So they start giving therapies to like families, and then they start giving therapies to the child, playing with them, trying to make the atmosphere as positive as possible.
Yeah.
Well, they assigned one to me because I think that they were worried of what could have been of the outcome of me having to be separated from Justin. And she helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I'll never forget her. She was the first person that asked me how I felt. She was the first person that sat with me and told me to look at myself in a mirror and tell me what you see. And I couldn't look at myself. I couldn't. Because when I looked at myself, I saw all the pain. I saw myself weak. I saw myself defeated and lonely. And it was an eye-opener to me of how much I retained inside. So she helped me a lot through the process. And, Justin was actually transferred off to the group home in Burbank.
How was he? How old was he at that time?
He had just turned 9. So we had his 9th birthday there at the hospital. We had a lot of different things. We had his 9th birthday at the hospital. I baptized him in the hospital. I did his first communion in the hospital because I wanted God to be with him wherever he went. And I wanted to make sure that God was shielding him. And I just, when I remember that day that he got transferred, I asked for the psychiatrist and the social worker to be there because they wanted me to be tough. Justin was another patient. He wasn't their son. They get to write something off and just ship him off. But to me, they were tearing the person I loved the most away from me. So what I did is I asked them to please be present the day of his transfer because I wanted them to see him get transferred in an ambulance to the group home. And I wanted them to look at me in the eyes and remember our faces because for the rest of their lives, they need to be held responsible too. That this decision was forced upon me because if I didn't take it, then I was going against medical, how do they call it?
Medical advice.
Medical advice.
Yeah.
And then that was going to be really bad on me moving forward. So they showed up, and I, was very angry at that moment, but I was just trying to focus on Justin. And the child life specialist showed up, and all the security guards that helped us in the hospital showed up, and they were just torn apart. The nurses, the direct staff that worked there with Justin, and he got transferred off to Burbank just like that. But I know they remember us. I know that because I don't think anybody has ever asked for that before. And I hope one day they hear this podcast.
They will.
Because we survived.
They will.
We survived.
And I know that must have been so hard, and like you said, just to have, as autism moms, and it's making me emotional, like there's so many hard decisions along the way that we have to make, right? Correct. And this type of decision, right, is one of the hardest because, as a mom, you're trying to protect him. You don't want him to get hurt, or, hurt someone else. And, you just want him to be better and to be safe. And then you're given very limited options and then made to feel like, well, hey, you're a bad mom if you don't, And so I can't imagine, after he leaves, what you were feeling.
Empty. Before Justin having to be hospitalized, I never had a day without him. Ever. Not a night. I used to say goodnight to him, give him a kiss. Everything felt quiet and empty. And it was so scary. It was extremely scary. And when you actually, in the process, when you have to transfer a child to a group home, they tell you that for the first 30 days, you cannot have any contact with them. None. Not a FaceTime. Nothing. I could just call. And ask. He can't tell me how he's feeling. He's probably so scared. And I'm responsible for that because I had to do that. And they're responsible. I want them to be accountable, to realize that when they ask a parent or they suggest this to a parent, that don't just say it like it's something easy to do. Mm-hmm. It is hard. It is extremely hard. It's traumatic. And it's a traumatic event for both. So Justin remained actually in that group home in Burbank for about almost 5 years. I think he hit the 5-year there. And we experienced a lot of different things in that group home.
I was going to ask you.
My goodness. I am going to be completely transparent with you. It was the worst 5 years of our lives. At first, I was promised many things. I was promised a program. I was promised community outings. I was promised that Justin was going to thrive there, that he was going to be safe and protected, that I was going to be able to be part of his whole entire life and decisions. No. Justin was a money bag. He lived in a home in Burbank where there was only, at that point, 2 other clients. So each client had their own room. And I would come and see Justin, and his clothes would be bleached. He was deteriorating. He was so skinny after a while. He wasn't eating. Even when I was the one that would buy the groceries for him because they wouldn't provide the food that Justin liked. I don't think it's fair for a child who is basically paying $329,000 a year to be in a home, to be given a cup noodle. No, it's not fair. And that company should be ashamed of the things that they do. And so does a regional center. They should be ashamed that they know it's going on. I've made multiple reports. Justin had bruises from head to toe. Not self-injurious bruises. Bruises that couldn't be explained. There was many incidents where people called CPS. School called CPS. Nothing was done. Because what CPS does is it gives it to the regional center. But why is he treated like any other child that needs to be protected? We should protect those that are the most vulnerable. No. Then they started saying that I was causing the behaviors. How can I cause the behaviors? I used to come every other day to see Justin. Then they started minimizing it. They said, we want you here less. So I said, okay, what I'm going to do is just go 3 days out of the week. And then they wanted to minimize that. And then they said 2 hours at a time. I'm his mom, and he's a child. He's 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, 14. Like, this is insane. And these are people that worked in that home, and the person that owns that company of that home, they have children. But you're banking off the vulnerable. That's not right. And so I'm very vocal, and I said what I had to say. Mm-hmm. So because I wasn't that mom that put my son in a group home, turned around, walked away, they had a problem with that. Because I was a mom who cared about giving him ABA therapy, they had a problem with that. Because I was a mom that would show up to his school, the home had a problem with that. Because I was a mom who cared about how my son dressed, they had a problem with that. They had a problem with everything. They never once took my child to a community outing. In 5 years, you're going to tell me that the only outing that he had was when he was transported with the school bus from the home to the school. School was a safe haven. Now you tell me how that's fair. You tell me, and I want Children's Hospital to explain to me, and I want the regional center to explain to me how that was supposed to help Justin thrive. The only reason that Justin was in this group home was because they wanted the process to be fast. They didn't care if it was adequate for him. They didn't care if it was in his best interest, if they had the actual programs running for him. They just wanted him out of the hospital, out of the hair, not another case, not another workload. Mm-hmm. He was just a piece of paper that was being thrown around. And there I am, still being his voice, but I'm the bad person to them. I am red flagged across the board. I am red flagged with the regional center. I'm a hysterical mother. I was red flagged.
Oh, because you asked questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I told them, do not challenge my intelligence. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. And don't tell me that you know more about my son than I do. I know when there's something wrong with him. And I think the people who truly care for Justin know. Justin was flinching. It was horrible. So they gave us a 30-day notice in July, I believe. August. End of July, beginning of August. And they said I had 30 days to remove Justin from the home. And they gave me all the reasons why. Reason number 1, I was affecting the program. What program? Mm-hmm. Reason number 2, something mom. I just kept going. Everything was about me, but not about Justin. Just because I wanted to still be his mother. That was a problem. That was a big problem to them. So I was devastated because at the same time, I can't bring him back home because his behaviors are so extreme.
In 30 days, I mean.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
How is that fair? So, of course, at that point, the regional center has to advocate for you. They need to start doing a statewide search. Mm-hmm. They need to start moving the ball. And that was another situation and issue because the previous coordinator that I had, she was actually removed from my case. For what reasons, we don't know. But she was removed from my case, and she had been with us for a very long time. So she knew everything. Like, mm-hmm. She's so helpful. She has so much empathy.
Yeah.
And it was hard to find someone like that. And they took her from us. And they gave me this other person who was practically brand new, didn't know much about group homes, and was just going based on whatever his managers and supervisors were telling him. So the advocacy on his end wasn't as strong as I wanted. I was kind of teaching him a thing or two mm-hmm. at that point. So he would tell me, if you find anything, just send it over to me.
You feel like, no, is that what you're supposed to be doing?
Exactly. So at that point, when I started doing the statewide search, and I would have to be calling every day asking, like, is there any update? Is there any update? They were like, oh, we got an update from NorCal, and they said unfortunately they don't have no beds. We got an update from West LA, and they said they don't have no beds. And I think they only got a response from 3 counties, according to them, and everything was a no. We were still waiting for the out of state search, and that's what I didn't want for Justin. I didn't want for him to have to go kilometers away. So I started searching myself. I was having a lot of panic attacks at that moment. My anxiety had actually risen to panic attacks. I couldn't sleep, had tons of insomnia. I missed work because I couldn't see myself being at work with other people when my whole life was falling apart. So I missed a couple of days, and that's where I started just Googling. And as I'm Googling, every single time, this one link kept coming up, which was Hope House. And I was like, Hope House? What's this? I started looking, and I'm like, no, I don't think this is for him. Hope House is in the city of El Monte, so opposite ends. And I'm like, man, I don't know. So I started looking for EBHS homes, so it's more like supportive homes that can deal with crisis, and they have RBTs in there, and that's what I was originally looking for. There's a program called STAR out there in California, and the hard part was that I couldn't get in contact with them. It was supposed to be my service coordinator at the regional center.
Got it.
So that was another issue because, well, I would give him the information, and it just depends on how much it's going to call once, or is he going to call 10 times, like a day? I don't know. So once I knew that the STAR wasn't being pursued as much, and they did say that for STAR, usually it takes about 3 months for you to even get in because, well, they have to train the staff. They have to do things appropriately, right? But unfortunately, the company we were with were just saying, like, 10 days left, 9 days left, 8 days left. And, we were able to get an extension. But then, the owner of the home was very clear with us in a meeting that this is it. I mean, they almost made me beg. They almost made me get on the floor and beg at this point. And I don't believe when you are running a business like this with children or adults with disabilities, that you would have to put a parent to the point that they have to get on their knees and beg. That's not right. There's no empathy behind that. And I hope she hears this podcast too. I hope you hear it. So she just told us, like, this was it. This is the final. So I don't know. I started Googling again. Hope House came out, and I said, let me give this a try. Gave it a call. I was interested because they had a website, which a lot of these group homes and facilities don't. And it had like a good Yelp rating. So I was like, oh, okay, interesting, right? Like, I'm like, I've never seen
more than 3 stars.
4.3. And I said, wow, So I call, and I get like an answer machine. So I just like leave my voicemail to them, give them all my information, and I get a call back that same day, like around 6 p.m. And with that, the person that called me was just so nice. And I just told her, not only was she nice, she stayed on the phone to listen to what was going on in our lives right now. And she just explained to me how great it was at Hope House. And, if Justin was the right fit, that, my best bet was to call the person in charge of Hope House, which he has a phone number. You can call him, and let's see what happens. So I ended up calling. He gave me a call back. I told him what was going on. And through this process, he was probably the first person that said, I am so sorry you're going through this. And that's what captivated me. No one had told me that. Not the regional center. Not the other home. Nobody. And I said, well, thank you.
You're like, wait, what is this?
He empathized. And so he said, I'm going to look over his paperwork, go over with the admin, see if there's a possibility. I call this guy every day. I was calling him every day. I was like, hey, any chance he looked at it?
Mm-hmm.
Then calling my regional center president, did you send it? Did you do this? Did you do that? And just trying to have everybody work together, navigate. So when the person in charge of Hope House called me, he let me know that there was a lot of obstacles. Obstacle one was that Justin was not from their region, so they need to get approval from the regional center from their area. So one regional center has to contact the other regional center and make it happen. And then two, the fact that, this was a home that's a ratio 1-3, but because Justin is starting, he would have to need like a 1-to-1.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit lower support, but they were going to give it a shot with Justin.
Wow.
I had not seen this place. I had physically not even gone. I, at that point, was at a stage in my life where I said, if God send me this, I'm going to let God take the wheel. And I'm just going to follow this path. And then the name was Hope House. I'm like, I need a little hope in my life, And we went on from there, and so far, Justin moved in October 15th of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been nothing but a blessing in our life.
Wow.
It really has. Some people ask me, how did I trust another group home to take care of Justin? I think I'm the type of person that I give people the benefit of the doubt. Yes, Justin went through a lot of traumatic events. So did I. But he had to really physically endure them. But at the same time, I have to do what's in Justin's best interest. And sometimes the things that you may want isn't exactly the things that you need at that moment.
That's a really good point.
And really I had to accept that. I had to accept that Justin couldn't come back home with me. Because then once you are removed from a group home and the child comes back to you, the odds that you will find another space will be like a 10%. Because now you're put on the bottom of the list and you're also red flag. Because something must have happened for you to get exited out from a program. So I had to make sure I did it within those 30 to 60 days that we had.
So, I mean, it takes badass strength to be able to do what you did with regards to just the being able, like you said, to trust another place, fighting the other place, and not even given any kind of grace and to be able to manage your anxiety through that whole process of like, because now it's like a time frame, like we're counting down here, and finding trust in a whole different place, and look how it turned out.
Yeah, it turned out beautiful. I consider us survivors. I think my whole life, since I was a kid, I was always in survival mode, always having to be a little bit more grown than my age. But we're survivors, and we're going to keep on surviving this. There's no way we're going to accept defeat. No way. I can't accept that because I have to have Justin's back. And I've seen him thrive. He's thriving,
That's huge.
Yeah, Justin is going to always be Justin. And you know what? I think a lot of parents have to also understand, especially parents who have children with profound autism.
Well, let's do this,
Yeah.
Because I feel like we're going into that advice,
Yeah.
And you got so many gems to drop. What advice would you give that mom? Because there's so many moms out there that are struggling right now to make the determination of whether a group home is the right fit, or feeling pressured, or I don't know, when I pass away, I need to set something up for my child. Like, what advice would you give?
Well, my advice to a parent who feels that they're not sure what to do, that let's say doctors are recommending this. Let's say you're just at home and you are tired and you are struggling day by day to just make it to the next day. I think as a parent, we're responsible to try everything. My saying, don't knock it till you try it. I know that our story sounds scary because for 5 to 6 years, we had to go through many negative things, many obstacles, many times where you could just say, like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you might have to go through those struggles to see the other side of things. I think that even when you are going through something extremely traumatic in your life, it doesn't mean that the next thing that comes in has to be the same way. And as a parent, I will never tell you that whatever decision you made was wrong, because only you know what's right. But you got to do it for it to benefit your child, not you, because you're going to hurt. I cannot promise you that you're not going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to tear you up inside. You're going to question yourself. You're going to question life. You're going to question faith. But it's for them, because you want to make sure your child thrives in life and is successful when you're not here anymore to be their voice. That's the important part. It's not about, are we happy? It's about, how can we make sure that our children are okay afterwards? And it's by starting to prepare them. Nobody would want to hand over their child to other people to care for them at the age of 7, 8, 9. You don't want that. They're babies. Mm-hmm. But I also think that even though our experience wasn't great in the beginning, it helped mold Justin to some type of independence. And now that he is in a great place, he's learning how to undo those past traumas. He's learning to control that voice in his head. And he's finding himself. He found people that also love him just like mom does. Because we're not the only ones that can love them. Mm. It's important to let other people love our children. It is very important. And it's also important, parents, don't let people's opinions stop you from what you got to do for your kid. If people want to say that you gave up your kid, that you don't have custody of your child, if people want to say that you abandon your child, that's their opinion. Their opinion should not even be a thought in your mind, because they're not there doing what you do day by day. And just because your child isn't living with you, it's not like it's less responsibility. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's more. Because now you just don't have to navigate your child and your life. You got to make sure you know how to talk to staff. You need to make sure that staff is good too. You need to make sure that your relationships with this new group home are positive. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. You got to start talking to all these people and trying to navigate and make sure that everything's running smooth for your child. So I would say, if this is something you have to do, don't doubt yourself.
Powerful. Very, very powerful on so many different levels. And, keeping it real with ourselves, right? I love how you said, that other people can love our children. That's okay. And then what's in the best interest of the child? Mm-hmm. Like, I have so many wants, but what is going to help him thrive? Mm-hmm. And it may not be what I want, mm-hmm. which is so powerful, mm-hmm. so powerful. So, I don't know if you know the next question I'm going to ask, but the next question I'm going to ask is, what makes Emely so badass?
What makes Emely so badass? Well, it's a pretty good question. I'm in a part of my life, in a stage of my life where I'm trying to find myself, because I'm more than just a mom. I'm more than just Justin's mom. I'm more than just Justin's advocate. I'm more than just Justin's voice. I'm a person. But if I would have to say what makes me a badass, it's the fact that I feel like I am completely undefeated. I'm undefeated. And the moment I can smell that defeat coming, I'm going to get back in that ring. And I'm going to make sure things happen, no matter what. And not just for Justin, for others. I believe that by sharing your story, you are also sharing information. You are sharing what worked for you, what doesn't, how does it feel. And it's important because these things are taboos. People, isn't unspoken of, you know, because of the judgment. And I get it. But I just don't care what people think. I don't care anymore. I care about what I think about myself. Because in the process of losing myself, in the process of grieving, it's all about me. And so that's what makes me bad. I just do not care what people think. I don't care to please others. I care to do what's best for Justin. And I care to advocate for others.
So that was so good. That was so good. Just, just the strength that you have is unbridled. I love the undefeated because you haven't been defeated, right? You haven't, and you just ooze just badass strength. You're an absolutely wonderful mom who is going to impact so many other moms out there who are questioning themselves, who are, getting people in their ear. Why would you do that? What's wrong with you? Or, programs saying we can't take your child because X, Y, and Z. But this and what you said and who you are has freed another mom out there.
I really hope so.
It has freed another mom out there because we've faced guilt throughout the course of this, right? Different layers, different things, but you just gave someone hope.
I really hope so.
You did.
That's really my goal. My goal is to, if I can at least just reach one person out there, that's priority.
That's not acceptable.
I want to reach millions.
Millions and millions.
But it's very important that if I could just help console their doubts, console their hearts, make them feel like they can put their head on their pillow and sleep without that worry of what others are saying, the doubt of what to do next, then I feel like a millionaire, Like I'm doing something right, and I think it's important. And it's important for more people to share their stories.
Absolutely. And before you leave, they need to know where they can find you. Like, can they call, like text you, email you?
Oh, yeah.
IG, what?
So I'm on Instagram, and you can find me at Emely in LA. I'm also on Facebook. You can just find me by my name and last name, Emely Zavala. And, I'm always in the hopes that I really want to make my own page for Justin to share his journey. He is turning 16, so he should be IG famous.
We have to make him IG famous.
I do. I know. Definitely that's in the works. So, if you guys follow me, you guys will be able to follow that page when it comes out.
Yes, absolutely.
And, yeah, I think those are the main places where you can follow me. If you want to text me, call me, just send me a DM and just let me know.
Yeah.
I'm available.
Yeah, and she came all the way here to Jersey. Yeah. I mean, she's available. But reach out to her. Her information will be in the show notes. Follow her page. I can't wait to follow your son's page. Yes. He's so cute. Yes, but basically she's here for you, right? And she wants you to share your story. Your story matters. Every story that is valuable in some way. So on that note, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
my
you.
LA friend.
Yes.
She's going to be back. She's going to be back, y'all.
I will.
And stay fierce, stay determined, and stay courageous like this badass over here, And we'll see you next Tuesday. Have a good one. Bye.